Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you, everybody. I'm very happy to be with all of you again. Just hopefully a few more days, and Savita and I will be back in New Jersey. And I'm looking forward to meeting with all of you.
Thank you. Good news.
Yes, now just the last few kilometers and we should be all done. So, Prabhu's, Mataji's, today's class is BG Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, text 6. So what we will cover in the next 40-45 minutes is overview of chapter 8. The title is Attaining the Supreme. So everyone knows Bhagavad Gita. It starts with so many questions Arjun has. He's depressed, and then Krishna is answering. And it then gets into a lot of details: who you are, what happens, why it happens, so on and so forth. So this particular has 22 texts. I'm sorry, there's a typo over there. It's 22 shlokas, 5 sections. And it will focus on death. We will understand the what, why, how death happens. All of us are very familiar with death. Either we've lost a dear one, and one day it will happen to us also. So there is some understanding of death, but based on what Krishna says, what the scripture says, what is factual related to death, and not just based on someone's perception what death is. That's what we're going to be covering. And then also another very important topic: is it a calamity or an opportunity? Many people think death, almost everybody, not many, almost everybody thinks death is something which is not a good thing to happen. But with a higher learning, we can understand that death is actually an opportunity. Everyone avoids death. Nobody wants to die. I'm not saying that you should want to die. Those are suicidal people. But I'm saying that death, which is looked as something as sorrow, etc., we'll cover into that. Death, is it a calamity or an opportunity? And then consciousness and conquering death. Everyone has been trying to conquer death since time immemorial. People wonder, why am I dying? Why do we die? Can I live forever? And they try to find what is called the fountain of youth, or there is the holy grail from which if you drink the holy water, you will get immortality. So are these all stories, fairy tales, or is it actually possible that you don't die ever again? And then finally, we'll wrap all this up in a recap, and then our question answers and group discussions. I owe credit to His Grace Gauranga Priya Prabhu from the Bhagavad Gita notes, the basis on which I have prepared for today's class. So now I'm going to go to Veda base. So please let me know if the screen loads properly. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. Bhagavad Gita 8.6. Ya ya vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kale param tatam evaiti kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Ya ya vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kale param tatam evati kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Ya ya vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tatam evati kaunteya sada tadbhava bhavitaha. Would somebody like to read, Prabhu Mataji?
यं यं वापि स्मरं भावं त्यजते अन्ते कलेवरं तं तं वैति कौन्तेय सदा तद्भावभावत.
Any Prabhuji?
Yam yam vapi smaran bhava tatyad anti kalevaram tam tam evite kaunteya sadate bhava bhavatiya.
Thank you. Synonyms, translation, and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Synonyms: yam yam, whatever; vapi, at all; smarana, remembering; bhavam, nature; tyajati, gives up; ante, at the end; kalevaram, this body; tatam, similar; eva, certainly; eti, gets; kaunteya, O son of Kunti; sada, always; tat, that; bhava, state of being; bhavitaha, remembering. Translation: whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. Purport: the process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. A person who at the end of his life quits his body, thinking of Krishna, attains the transcendental nature of Supreme Lord. But it is not true that a person who thinks of something other than Krishna attains the same transcendental state. This is a point we should note very carefully. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharat, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life, and so in his next life he was transferred into the body of a deer. Although as a deer he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thought during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So, this life creates one's next life. If in the present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. This will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendently absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is the best process for successfully changing one's state at the beginning, at one state of being at the end of one's life. Om Agniyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalap Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagat Nathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namoste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishnavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishnaya Putale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Padaya Prabhu Shrimati Radha Swami. So Prabhu's Mataji's, what we're going to be talking about death. In material context, death is considered to be very unpleasant. However, in a spiritual setting, because spiritual is exact opposite of material, death is not talking about death is not unpleasant. In fact, it's something very pleasant and beneficial. And that's what we'll see how in the next few slides. Okay, so we'll go quickly through the overview of chapter 8. Oh, it is actually Attaining Krishna. I made some typos here. Remembering Krishna at the time of death. So chapter 8 has 5 sections. The first section is 1 to 4, 8.1 to 8.4, where Krishna is answering Arjuna's question. Section 2, which is today's shloka, is a part of that. 8.5 to 8.8 is remembering Krishna at the time of death. And 3 is how to remember Krishna. And section 4 is devotional service, bhakti. And section 5 is comparing the material and spiritual world. So section 8 ties up everything. This is related to death, what happens after death, what you can do to overcome death. So this is the overview of chapter 8. Now, Radhesham Prabhu, he is the temple president of NVCC Pune. Recently, some of you may have seen his video on question answers. Sometime back, there were some atrocities committed against people and devotees in Bangladesh. Many people were upset, and there were many questions, and he answered these questions. And one of the questions was that, devotees have dedicated their lives to seva, and how is it that Krishna didn't protect them? There were many such questions. So one thing which he said, which is so easy to relate to and connect with, is he spoke about the alphabets. We all know alphabet ABCD. He spoke about the alphabet B, D, and C. So, and how he mentioned it nicely is B stands for birth, D stands for death, and C stands for choices. So, from the time that we are born and to the time that we die, C is in the middle, choices. So, in the natural flow of things in alphabets A, B, C comes between B and D. Similarly, in living, choices is what we make, and choices matter. So, this was a nice little explanation that he gave, and how these choices relate to our death. So understanding death, first of all, we need to have some background of what is death. We all know what is matter, correct? Krishna's inferior energy, and Durga Devi is the superintendent. She's the director. She's the one who is controlling, everyone under that influence. And she has these tools of goodness, the gunas, Satgun, Rajagun, and Tamagun, mode of goodness, ignorance, and passion. These are the tools on basis of which she controls all those who are in the inferior energy. What does the inferior energy contain of gross and subtle elements? We know the 5 elements, including the subtle element of mind, intellect, intelligence, and ego. And what are the characteristics of matter is ever-changing, relative, and under the influence of time. Kala is one of the truths which is discussed, one of the 5 subjects is discussed in Bhagavad Gita. It is also an energy of Krishna. So those who are in the material setting, matter, material comes from the word matter, correct, are under the influence of time. Matter is inert, it can't do anything on its own. Something has to be done to it. It's a very simple example. You see your table and chair, your dining table and chair. It's matter. It's just sitting there. It can't do anything. It can't move on its own or do anything. It can't think. It can't feel. So that's what it means is inert. Relative. Relative is one perceptions, what we can talk about. So currently over here, it is quite warm, but over there, where you people are, it's getting to be cool. It's already fall. Temporary, always changing. Okay, so these are the attributes of matter. And then we have something which is spirit. Spirit is the exact opposite. In fact, matter is called the perverted reflection of the spirit. So what is spirit? It is Krishna's superior energy. And what it is directed by Yoga Maya, embodied as Subhadra Mai. And how, what are the tools she uses? She uses something which is called pureness, the pure goodness. There is goodness in the material world also, but that is not the pure goodness. It's kind of adulterated. And there'll always be some kind of a tinge or a mixture of the Rajo and the Tamoguna in that. However, in the spiritual world, it is pure goodness, Shuddha Sattva. These are just Sanskrit terms, but important to know that. Qualitatively, this spirit is similar to Krishna. It is similar to Krishna qualitatively, and just as it contains gross and subtle elements on matter, on this end it is Sat Chit Anand, eternal, aware, and blissful. Now, if you see this last box, it's exactly opposite. Never changing, always remains. It is absolute, active, and it's beyond the influence of time. So these are the two classifications that we need to understand. And this spirit is who we are. The body that we have is made up of the matter. So when we understand this distinction, it tells us who we are. I am the spirit soul, Aham Brahmasmi, right? And what is there is that awareness factor is our consciousness. Consciousness is just being aware. So if you are sitting here listening to the class and a vehicle goes outside and it honks, you're in the class, but you're also aware. Oh, a car is passing by or a dog is barking. Here in Pune, some dogs are barking on the street. I'm sitting in this room, I'm talking to you people, but also I'm aware of my surroundings. So that awareness is our consciousness. This consciousness, on top of the consciousness, is the subtle body of our mind, intelligence, and ego. Ego is the sense of I am, the sense of being, that I-ness. Everyone knows what the mind is and what the intelligence is. The mind is where all the thoughts, it's a thought factory. That's where all the thoughts are being produced and churned. Intelligence is the ability to discriminate, to decide yea or nay. And then we have a gross body that we can see, touch, and feel. Subtle body we can't see, but we can feel the effects of a subtle body. And if it's more finer, sublime, then the subtle body is conscious, and the most sublime is the spirit soul. So this is who we are in a pictorial representation. We've all seen our photographs, selfies, everyone has seen that, our photographs. But what we are seeing in that photograph is just the gross body. People can see our subtle body in the way we behave. The subtle body and consciousness is the way we behave, our actions. You can't see, but you can feel a person. How is mind? So that's what we say. Are uska nature aise hai. Her nature is like this. Some people are very happy-go-lucky. Some people are brooding. Some people are jealous. Some people always angry, short-tempered, things like that. Okay, so this is who we are. We are the spirit soul. There's the consciousness, the subtle body, and then the gross body. Now, you also see in Bhagavad Gita, and also in many of the lectures you must have heard, that, there is a photo of Krishna on the chariot with Arjuna. So they've used an analogy that the senses are the 5 horses pulling the chariot. The chariot is the body, right? The gross body. The mind intelligence is the mind are the reins, and the intelligence is the driver. And the soul is the passenger sitting in that chariot. So, what is consciousness? Where does consciousness figure in? Consciousness is the seat which connects the soul with the body. Now, understanding death, all these questions: what, why, where, when, how does it happen? So, when we see what is death, okay, our soul is entrapped. Like you saw the previous slide, the soul, consciousness, subtle, gross body. It is trapped. Why? Because the soul is a spiritual entity, and the uh, body is a material substance. So something which is temporary, it's the exact opposite. It's just put in over there. Just consider it like this. Our natural state is to breathe air. The fish's natural state is to breathe the water from the breathe oxygen from the water. We take it from the air, correct? Imagine if we are put in the water, what happens? What an uncomfortable situation. We may hold our breath for a while, and then after a while we die because it's incompatible. So similarly, the person who we really are is completely incompatible in this situation. However, we become used to it. We are used to that situation, and we actually start considering that, yes, I am this body. So the soul is trapped in the material situation. And what does that entrapment mean? Means the soul has to take birth. The soul is not taking birth, but it is going from one body to another. So when the soul enters a new body, a new material condition, it's called birth. Because matter, it takes into matter, it occupies matter, and matter is something which is temporary. There is old age, there is disease, and then finally there is death. Death is nothing but the soul leaving one body and going to the next one. When it leaves body A, it is called death. When it enters into body B, it is called birth. Okay, why does this happen? This happens fundamentally because of our desires, dvesh. We'll get into this a little bit more. From these desires come these thoughts, thinking. When we start thinking something, we start feeling about it. So if I'm thinking of eating a samosa now in my mind, why does that come? Because I have that desire. Some memory, something triggered somewhere. Maybe the aroma. I was passing by on the street and the halwai is frying samosas. And so I get these feeling, I want to eat. I recreate and I relive that experience. And then my mind and my intelligence, all this is happening in the mind. Then my intelligence is saying, yes, yes, have the samosa. Or in my case, it could be a chum chum. I'm diabetic, correct? But then the mind would not be able to, the intelligence is not able to be utilized properly, knowing I'm diabetic, but still, because that is so strong, the thinking and feeling, that I say, yeah, you can have just one piece now. And then finally, I act upon it. I go and buy that chum chum and I eat it. So these desires, thinking, feeling, willing, acting, okay, all this together gives some results. These results are called karma. Now the question is, where do these desires come from? The desire is what the soul has desires. Why? Because the soul is an active entity, it is not inert. And the soul's position is to always be serving, and it's looking for ways and means to be serving. So when it's looking for ways and means to be serving, to do this, to do that, in a natural state, it's a part of the whole. So it is looking for ways and means to be serving Krishna. In an unnatural state, which is the material world, The soul is looking for ways and means to serve itself so that it gets pleasure. So the entire purpose of all these desires, everything, whatever is happening, is for pleasure. The difference is in the spiritual world, it is for Krishna's pleasure. In the material world, it is for self-pleasure. So this is what is happening. Desires, thinking, willing, acting, results, karma. Okay, so whatever we are doing, we are incurring karma. We are kind of fortunate that in the Kali Yuga, results are only applicable over here, thinking. In the previous ages, where people had much more capabilities, human beings had much more capabilities, longer lifespans, and so on and so forth, it wasn't all that contaminated. Even for your thought, you would incur karma. Whereas over here in Kali Yuga, because of a situation, and this is Krishna's mercy, that only on your action you incur karma. However, in your thought, if you even think of a devotional service, even if you think of, say, building a temple for Vishnu, for Krishna, just thinking about it, you get the pious credits. So even thinking of an act of devotional service earns you pious credit. Whereas if I'm thinking of, I'm jealous of somebody and I'm thinking ill of somebody, that thought itself won't incur karma. However, because I think it follows this path, feeling. So we need to be very careful of our thoughts, always examine our thoughts. Why do I think this way? So if something has offended me, someone has offended me, that thought comes, rascal, in the mind. Maybe on the face there is a smile, but in the thought, there is something happening. So rather than question, oh, what have I done? Why are they behaving this way with me? Find out. The example is recently in Bangladesh, they went and destroyed the temple, everything. And there was a lot of outrage and there was a lot of anger. And many of us thought that what is being done is wrong. Of course, it is wrong. And some were in a Kshatriya spirit and becoming very militant. But at such point in time, see, it's all a thinking. If I think, yes, this is what has happened, but I need to take the guidance and shelter of a senior Vaishnava. Prabhu, Mataji's, such a thing has happened. What should I be doing? Did any one of us take responsibility for what happened in Bangladesh? Now, it may seem a very silly question. How is it possible? What did we do? We didn't go there and... But then, if we believe in our Shastras, that what Shastras say is true, that whatever a disciple, his nonsensical and misbehavior activities, whatever he does, the spiritual master in whose shelter he has come in his shelter, that spiritual master, those reaction he absorbs. Of course, Krishna will always protect the spiritual master. He's a representative of Krishna. So it depends on our thinking whether we feel guilty. Oh, there is some nonsensical thing. My sadhana is not proper. That is why such a thing could have happened. Or no, those people from the other religion have been doing this. So in all these situations, that's why it is very important to take the guidance and the understanding of a spiritual master, your Shiksha Guru, or senior Vaishnava. Because they're the ones whose desires, thinking, feeling, willing, all these things, whatever is there, has been channeled and trained, and it is proper way of doing it. So this is why, uh, we understood what, we understand why, and now here is when it happens. When death occurs, to understand that, we need to understand karma. So this results, correct? So this results leads to karma. And karma is basically, we have a quota. So when the body leaves, when the soul leaves one body and goes to another body, it carries with it a quota, good karma, bad karma, all these things it carries with it, and it has to undergo the consequences. Now, those quotas, now many people think that life is a timeline, that it is of so many years. Oh, this person died at 84. Oh, this person died at 44. Years is what we call time, measure. Years is a measure of time. Actually, life is in the moments of breath, the number of breath that the jiva, when he or she enters a particular material body, that is predetermined. Okay? So you have karma. Now, how in that, of course, some people breathe fast, some people breathe slow. There's yoga of how you control your breathing techniques, not just for your. So you know this, it can, make that time period a little more comfortable. So during that time period, destiny, so karma, His Holiness Dharandhar Swami Maharaj was saying, karma is what happens. Destiny is what we make of it. So my karma is to be a very rich person. What I do with it is my destiny. Or it could be the other way around, to be born in poverty. What I do with it is my destiny. So what we do with it and what we do ties in back to the choices that we make. And then there is change. So whatever is happening, there is change. My Guru Maharaj has said, like change is something which is constant. We all know that. Now, this change that we're talking about in a spiritual setting, what are we trying to do? We're trying to do devotional service. In Kali Yuga, one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga, it is very difficult to do the right thing and very easy to do the wrong thing. Case in point, when somebody starts smoking to look cool or peer pressure or whatever, these kids, that age is getting to be smaller and smaller. In my generation, it was when we were in high school and college. You used to look cool, you have a cigarette. Then you get addicted to that nicotine. So taking a cigarette and smoking is not very difficult, but giving it up is almost next to impossible. So change is always happening. So if you do nothing, it will only pull you down. That's what my Guru Maharaj says. Material world is such that if you do nothing, you think that I'm just going to be sitting, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. It will just pull you down. So you need to put extra effort just to remain where you are, and you need to do a lot more to go further up and progress. So change happens. Now, if you look at all these things, when death occurs, is one is when this quota is over, other is the destiny and our choices, and that's where the change will happen. Death, as we had told earlier, is nothing but changing of one form to another form. How it happens, what happens when you actually die? Now, our scriptures tell us that death for someone who's not a devotee is an extremely physical and mental painful event. It's like tens and thousands of scorpions biting you simultaneously. Why does that happen? Is because the soul is so attached to his body. He thinks he is the body and the body is just being snatched away. He can't bear it. Okay, but it has to happen. So the soul on the vehicle of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. On the intelligence, mind, and ego, the soul travels. And based on whatever karma he did, he goes and next body is. So, this is the transport mechanism of the soul moving from one body to another. So, this gross body that we're seeing, that gets finished. In some customs, they bury it. Dust you are, and dust thou shalt return. People who are buried after a sufficient long time, it becomes all ashes, dust. In other customs, they burn the body. Immediately, that dust happens. We all turn to ashes. Now, in electric crematorium, and within, I don't know, half an hour, 1 hour, it's all ashes. So this is how death happens. At the time of death, the soul is transported, and the medium on which it travels is the mind, intelligence, and the ego, and it gets the new body. So that soul at that point in time, based on its karma, will then ride on the semen of the father. It could be a pig, it could be a horse, it could be a demigod, and it is implanted into the womb of the mother, and then it grows. The gestation period, whatever, pregnancy. In this case, whatever is the womb of the mother and that father's cell, whatever that be, that's the type of body it will acquire. Whether pig, horse, it could be anything. And this is the new body. Then the last question is, where does death happen? Where does death happen? In our experience, we know that death happens somewhere. Right now, as we are speaking, someone has died. Someone has taken birth. It could be literally anywhere and everywhere. Gautama Buddha, when he was Prince Siddhartha, he led a very sheltered life in his palace. And once he went out and he saw all the suffering of people, and he was shocked what's going on. And that's where he sat, meditated, and he got his enlightenment. And one person came and asked him that, oh, my child has died. You know, you're a great sadhu, you're a great personality, please revive him. He says, okay, fine. Get me water from the house where there has been no death at all. So this man, villager, went everywhere. He went to the whole village, and not a single place. He went to the next village. There's nobody who hasn't died in that household, either recently or in the past. So death happens everywhere and anywhere, and it will happen to all of us. Now, is it a calamity or an opportunity? Okay, to understand this, we know that there is birth, we know that there is death, and we know that between B and D there is C, choices. This choices is what is free will. So whether it is a calamity or an opportunity depends on how we use our free will, what choices that we make. Okay. Now we understood what was consciousness and how does that matter vis-a-vis death, cause and effect. Our consciousness, what we are aware of, affects the mood and nature. So consciousness affects your bhava, and that in turn has an effect on our thoughts. And then from thoughts, you know, there is the thinking, feeling, willing, acting. So this is what your consciousness is. How important our consciousness, stuff that we are aware of. What are we aware of? There is an active consciousness and there is something called a subconsciousness. Active consciousness, the example I gave you, the car goes outside and it is honking. But at the same time, inside, there is a lot of processing happening, our consciousness. And from there, all these things are sprouting. So your consciousness affects your mood affects your thoughts. And we know that our moods go up and down. Monday morning, the mood is very low. We're going to work. Friday evening, it's very high. Okay. Then finally, consciousness and conquering death. Is it true or is it just fairy tale? Now, Prabhupada, when he started the movement, people were saying, his disciples, Prabhupada, you know, people in West don't know who's Krishna. Let's call it God consciousness. Everyone knows it is God. So Prabhupada said, no, it will be Krishna consciousness. So you see the word, both these words are so important, Krishna and consciousness. He could have said God meditation, or, you know, at that time there were many flavors of the sadhus and sons coming from India and spreading spirituality, different forms of spirituality in the West. He said, no, Krishna consciousness. God is like a title. Like we have a descriptor, man, woman, child. So like that, God. But God is a person, and that supreme person is Krishna. So Krishna and then consciousness. So it is a personal connection. If I say man, you just know, okay, this is man, this is his attributes. But which man? There are so many men which are there. Now, even if we all know that there is only one God, all the faith and all the traditions say that there is only one God, different names they call him. But when I say God, it tells me nothing about the person. What's his personality? Is he an angry God? Is he a loving God? Who's it? So when we say Sachin Tendulkar, we know he's the god of cricket. Then, okay, we know this is Sachin Tendulkar. This is his height. This is how he looks. This is how he speaks. This is how he walks. This is how he plays. So Krishna, that name Krishna, is extremely significant. And that name itself encompasses everything. Because in the spiritual world, nothing is relative. So there's no difference between Krishna, the name, and Krishna himself. Then the other word is consciousness, being aware. In our spiritual world, we are 24/7 fully absorbed and aware about Krishna. In the material world, we are fully absorbed and aware about ourselves, our consciousness. So Krishna consciousness is changing the perverted, the polluted consciousness to its original state. So how we conquer that is being conscious of Krishna. Prabhupada's purport explains, whatever we are thinking of, that nature we attain. So when we are constantly thinking of Krishna, we are serving Krishna, we attain Krishna's nature. It's a reformatory and a restoration process. It's done through knowledge and practices. And that's what it does. It aligns our thoughts, words, and deeds, everything, to all the way on top, Krishna consciousness. So this is how we can conquer death. Now someone will say, how do you know? How do you know? Practice it. The proof of pudding lies in eating. One way there will be an intellectual, philosophical appreciation. Makes sense. The other way is you actually do it. If someone comes and tells you, I'm hungry, a child comes and tells you, Mama, I'm hungry. You don't know how hungry that child is. You may even have an idea of how hungry the child is. Oh, Mama, I'm really very hungry. But actually what that child is feeling, you can only relate it like when you felt hunger. But maybe your tolerance to hunger is not much more than that child's tolerance to hunger. Or between two children. Like in our case, when my daughter Sachi is hungry, she comes and says, I'm hungry. Is there anything to eat? Make something. But Rohil will not say a word when he's hungry. He just comes in and out of the kitchen that he's hungry. So from this, what we understand is that our consciousness and the way we behave, the way we think, the way we say stuff, Krishna consciousness is dovetailing all of this. So whatever we're doing japa, we're eating, we're offering bhoga, we're eating prasad, we do arti, Damodar Ashtakam is going on. Whatever we're doing is to align everything and bring it all to Krishna. It's like a switch. We turn off from me consciousness to Krishna consciousness. So finally, to bring this to a close, what we were talking about today is birth, death, and beyond. So we should understand that whoever takes birth dies, and whoever dies will take birth again. And it is said, life is a preparation and death is the examination. Just as C comes between B and D, So also do choices come between birth and death, and the choices that we make will determine whether death is a calamity or an opportunity. Karma is what happens, destiny is what we make of it. Matter isn't consciousness, however, consciousness matters. What we are aware of, it makes a huge difference in our lives. And then Krishna consciousness really matters because it's the only thing that is real. You look at anything else in your experience, take anything. It is not real. Its realness is only temporary because it's in a material setting. Krishna consciousness, whatever act you do, remains eternal. Thank you, Prabhu's Matajis. That brings it to an end. If anyone has any comment or a question, discussion. Very nice book, Prabhupada's Birth and Death. This particular topic is discussed in great detail. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna Amritananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, I know you said it enough on this topic about the Bhagavad Gita today. But since today is the appearance day of the Radha Kund and Shyam Kund,
Yeah.
I know it's a big topic, but can you say a few words at least?
No, I won't be qualified to talk about Radha Kund, Shyam Kund, and I haven't even prepared anything on it. I don't know if Simeshwar Prabhu or somebody would be able to. Simeshwar Prabhu, could you help out here, please?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not qualified to either, not prepared, but just let's meditate on this. Today is the day. Let's remember and meditate the pastimes of Lord Radha, Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani. So this is from our ordinary mind. It may not be that much appealing, but in the spiritual level, on the spiritual realm, this is the topmost of the ecstasy or the exchange of loving devotion of Srimati Radharani to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. That's why the out of everything, in the nectar of instruction, it is mentioned that the last verse, that overall Vrindavan, the Govardhan is very prominent, or one should worship Govardhan. And on Govardhan, the Radha Kund in the Vrindavan, in Govardhan, Radha Kund is the topmost. That's why these, the Goswamis were very much attached to Radha Kund. And, they were taking shelter of Radha Kund, and they were all chanting the holy name on the banks of Radha Kund. And also, the known pastime of Sri Radha and Krishna, the water splashing pastimes, it happens, every day. It's called Ashtakaliya Leela. Every day it happens. Krishna comes there and, perform the pastimes over there. Today is the appearance day. And as we all know that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested Srila Raghunath Das Goswami to excavate and find and elaborate more this Radha Kund, so that everybody can, remember and understand and realize the importance of Srimati Radharani and the Radha Kund. There was a wonderful description of pastimes happened. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Prabhu, sorry to interrupt. Before this, I know this will be a long discussion. I just want to touch base on the shlokas, current shloka questions. If I have, because I don't know how much this discussion which of Radha would take. I had actually questions.
We'll finish in 2 minutes, so that's just coming up.
Sure.
Yeah. So, so the Raghunath Das Goswami was, assigned to, excavate Sri Radha Kund. Raghunath Das Goswami didn't have any money or anything like that, and was so much in anxiety how to do that. So there was a merchant who got a dream that he was about to spend a lot of money for making for the business and for the pilgrimage and got a dream, and you go and give this money as a charity to Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. And everything is actually about Radha Kund is very pure. Devotees, the pure devotees, they don't put their, feet on the water, and even they don't go and climb on the Govardhan. These are the two things we need to remember always. We don't put our feet on the Govardhan, and if we don't put our feet in the Radha Kund. Sometimes devotees goes there and takes the water from there and sprinkle the water on their head. I think that's good enough. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot to discuss. We are not getting into that, Jayaprakash Prabhuji. So we'll cut short. Thank you so much for bringing that. Today is a very, very auspicious day of appearance of Sri Radha Kund, and many, many devotees on the midnight. So Krishna is appeared in the midnight, same as Sri Radha Kund is also appeared in the midnight. Yeah, and also Ashtami, on the day of Tidhi Ashtami, Behula Ashtami, and so many devotees. If you won't get a space to go even near to the Radha Kund on this time, so many devotees comes there, and on this day they worship Sri Radha Kund, and this is very dear to Krishna. Radha Kund is very, very dear to Krishna. That's why, even though it is appearance day of Shyamakund, it is not, we don't too much say that Shyamakund, but it's an appearance day of Radha Kund because of Krishna wanted this Radha Kund to be so much famous, so much on top. Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
let's come back
Thank
to
you,
the
Suneshwar Prabhu. Thank you, Amritananda Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad from all Rishila Prabhupada. Prabhuji, wonderful class. I just had a couple of questions. Prabhuji, before that, no, I just want to reiterate myself, if I've understood correctly. You were mentioning soul is the trigger for desire.
Yes.
Okay. So, Prabhuji, here the scenario is if a person eat outside the same rasgulla or gulab jamun or whatever the sweet it is, and it is not basically offered to God for bhoga, and he eats that, and it is karma, correct? But
Yes.
the same gulab jamun and rasgulla is offered to God as a bhoga, and he eats as a prasad, right?
Yes.
So that doesn't apply as a karma. Now, a person who is a diabetic, now if he eats that prasad, will it, whether his health will further spoil because he's eating a prasad? Or I'm just trying to just understand the scenario.
Yes. Yes, good point. So what you're raising, Bimal Prabhu, is something where I'm eating a rasgulla, though it is a prasad, and I'm diabetic, will it affect me? Your spirituality, your consciousness, it will clean up. Prasad, also Prabhupada has explained, creates fine brain tissues so that intellect, it sharpens your intellect. However, on your other gross body level, that would be affected. So that's the reason why we also need to take care of our body. Devotion is for the soul. Body is incidental. So whatever acts of devotional service that we do, Bimal, is for our spirit soul, is for our consciousness. So yes, when we eat a rasgulla prasad, spirituality, our spirituality gets strengthened. However, at the same time, this body is the vehicle through which devotional acts are performed. This body is also Krishna. We should have that consciousness. This body is also Krishna's, and I need to take care of it. So I have to do something which is a win-win for both. So if I'm diabetic, I should eat prasad, I should offer bhoga, I should eat prasad, which will also take care of my body and won't be detrimental to my body. Does that answer the question?
Yes, Prabhuji. So the clear instruction is, we have to be careful about what we're eating, or else you would impact our body, and then you will impact our bhakti, right? Because our body is the media for bhakti. So basically, we have to be careful and not
Yes.
eat anything which will spoil our health, and we cannot do the bhakti. right, Prabhuji?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Prabhuji, my second question is that the Bangladesh incident, Prabhuji, right? So, God says, Lord Krishna says that, who is my devotee? I save them from three miseries. And the three miseries are basically the mental misery and any other living entity creating the problem, that is misery.
Nature.
And the third is natural calamity, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So then what has happened to the person, devotee who has died of this? Because, I basically foresee that it's a living entity who has created him a problem and he died. And then why Lord Krishna did not save it? And I could not understand in this context, you were saying the choices, right? I got lost with there. It's what I could not really understand how it is you're trying to say that that completely I got lost with you there. So Lord Krishna should have saved him as per my
Yes. Also, it could be understood another way, a common way of asking this question is, why do good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people? This is a very common question. One of the answers is via karma. But in this case, specifically a devotee, why didn't Krishna protect? And so much so, Krishna says, my devotee will never perish. So how do we understand all this? If you have some time, you should look at the video. This exact same question was asked to Radhesham Prabhu. And I think about 10-15 questions on the Bangladesh incidents. If you get the time, you should read it. It was posted at, I think, on Japathon or somewhere. If I can find it, I can repost it. So,
yeah, please, Prabhuji, please.
You have it?
There in the Japathon.
It
It's
was
there,
in
no?
Japathon, yes.
Yep.
Correct. In Japathon.
It's very detailedly explained. Yeah.
So this thing has been explained.
Prabhuji, if you don't mind, can you forward that video? I got lost. I could not see that video.
Yeah. I mean, Simeshwar Prabhu or Jaiprakash Prabhu, can you do that?
Yeah, will do.
Thanks.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So Krishna will, the way it is explained and my understanding from that video is, when Krishna always protects. Or I don't know if you were there in Madhupati Prabhu's class. He gave the example of a child who gets lost in the fair, and then he's crying and someone gives him food to eat, and then he gets wet in the rain, and then someone gives him clothes to wear, and then he starts coughing, so someone gives him cough syrup, but still the child is not happy. And then finally someone takes that child and returns him to his father. He says, I know you're the son of so and so. And then the child is ecstatic. So the same way what was explained is, there is, for the bodily levels, we do things of philanthropy and altruism to take care of the body, but the body is such that it is going to perish one day or the other. There is somebody who's hungry, you feed him, his hunger goes away for that one meal. After that, tomorrow he'll be hungry again, whatever it is. You cure a person of his disease, again he'll fall ill sometime later on, or he'll get some new disease. So this is always happening. But when we are doing things for our soul, now in your question, Prabhu, is, when you do things for the soul, it is eternal, it is not temporary. So in this case, what has happened is, why didn't Krishna protect? So first of all, we have to understand that what Krishna does is always for our best, always. In our limited understanding, we may not be able to understand what is happening and why Krishna is doing this. It is impossible, because Krishna is inconceivable. He's inconceivable how he works. That's one point to understand. We try to process things based on whatever is our limited understanding. And this limited understanding that we have can at times lead to doubts. But then if you think, this thinking process that we were talking about, if we think, what is this entire thing about bhakti? This entire thing about bhakti is, I'm doing it for you, Krishna. Whether you, anyway, you ill-treat me, you treat me, whatever you do, I don't care. Every night we sing Damodar Ashtakam prayer. How many times Satyavrata Muni has mentioned I don't want any benedictions of what use is it to me. I don't want anything. All I want to have is that image of you, of Bal Gopal. That is surrender. That is love. When I'm completely surrendered to Krishna, if something bad is happening to me, I will be saying that I deserve this. This is something which I have done. I will not get that thought which will tell me that, Arey, I did so much for Krishna. What has Krishna done for me? Or Krishna, why are you doing this for me? Because we are in a conditioned stage, our devotional service is mixed. It's not that pure Shuddha Sattva. It is Sattva, but it is mixed with some tinge of personal motive. So that is a transaction that we're doing, consciously or subconsciously, because we're used. If I do something for you, I expect this in return. If I'm doing this, this will happen. But love doesn't expect anything in return. Love only gives, no matter, unconditional, unmotivated, uninterrupted. So why Krishna has done this, why Krishna hasn't protected them, is I personally, I look at it as I try to keep myself away from these questions, because what happens is then this can spiral into so many other things. Oh, it's been 20 years, I'm doing Hare Krishna, 30 years, I'm doing Hare Krishna. Why am I not making any progress? So from that perspective, but the best answer you will get, Prabhu, is from watching this video.
Prabhu, I have one question.
Hare Krishna. Yes,
Hare
Ram
Krishna.
Prabhu.
Yeah. So actually, why we need to depend on Krishna? He given eyes, intelligence, knowledge, and everything he given to us.
Yeah.
Can't we think and act by ourselves?
Yeah.
So with his presence in our heart, Krishna is there in my heart. I will do, I will act, and I will perform. If some person will do bad things, which is not acceptable, we can protest, right? So we cannot wait. So that is one clarification I'm looking, Prabhuji. So if you are behaving very good way, polite way, opposite person is not in a position to understand your politeness and your soft character, is people taking that as an opportunity.
Yes.
So how to address these kind of people surrounded? Maybe everyone in their personal life definitely face this issue. So yeah.
Excellent question, Ram. Bhakti Tirth Swami Maharaj has said humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility doesn't mean think less of yourself. So someone comes to attack you, you are supposed to defend. But whom are you defending? Are you defending yourself, or are you defending Krishna's body?
I'm defending myself because Krishna given this
correct
great
so,
body. I need to protect.
Yes, that is the right consciousness.
Yeah.
If someone is attacking a temple, we are supposed to protect it.
Yes.
We will protect the temple. The temple is being protected because it's not that I built here, or I'm the president, or I go to this temple and this is where I worship. I. This is Krishna's, and Krishna's devotees are over here. So with that perspective, yes, definitely. But the same act, when it is done to defend my body, I'm defending my body because it is my body and it gives me a sense of pleasure. But in all these cases, you ask the question, why do I have to be dependent on Krishna? Because whether we like it or no, we are always dependent on Krishna. Always dependent. It's impossible for the jiva to be independent. The jiva is a part and parcel of Krishna. The only person who's independent, the only real Purusha, the enjoyer, the independent, the controller, is Krishna. Only one, Krishna. Everyone else is dependent on him. So I have really no independence, that independence is a perception. It's just a kind of an illusion that I'm independent. We are not. So we are dependent. That's who we are. We are part and parcel. And when everything I'm depending upon Krishna, to the degree that we have surrendered, to that degree we get his protection. Protection, you call it mercy or whatever it is. And when at times we feel that in spite of having surrendered, and still all these things are happening to me, then that's a level of thinking or a consciousness. So when all these hiccups and speed bumps come in our lives, rather than, oh, Krishna, I've done so much for you, the question can be same, thinking can be turned around. What more can I be doing for you? There isn't enough of maybe the quality of my service. Maybe I need to do something internal. Who was it? Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. So yeah, your point is very valid. If I'm soft, someone will come and just slap me and go away. Jesus Christ said, if you're slapped, turn the other cheek. But doesn't mean anyone and everyone can slap you. I'll give you a short story in this. There was snakes are very envious and very dangerous. They can kill you because they're venomous. So a snake went to a sadhu and he says, whenever people see me, they beat me with these lathis and they, kick me and they throw stones on me, and what to do? So the sadhu said, you just sit in this under this tree, don't bite anyone, just stay there. Don't disturb anybody. Don't go wandering in houses here and there. So the snake said, okay. After some time, the sadhu passed by again. The snake was crying. He's saying, what happened? He says, you told me not to bite people, not to do anything. I was just sitting here. Still, all the village children and whoever would come would throw a stone on me and go away because I'm doing nothing. You told me not to bite. The sadhu said, yes, I told you not to bite, but I didn't tell you not to be doing that. You see how a cobra, when it is ready to attack, I didn't tell you not to hiss or not to. So some instructions that we can get to it is that we are first of all dependent. We take the instructions of a bona fide authority on what to do, what to say. And humility or softness is when it comes to us. In one of the lectures, I forget who said it was, be strict with yourself and be lenient with others. But please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying that, whatever has happened in Bangladesh and those miscreants should go away. They will get whatever is their due punishment from the law. Whether they get it from the law of the government and all that, we don't know. But definitely from their karma. And then Krishna doesn't tolerate, but he acts on his own time. He acts per his sweet will. That may or may not fit within our thinking, that may or not fit into our timeline. Is that okay, Prabhuji?
Yeah, wonderful answer, Prabhu. Thanks a lot.
Hare Krishna, all glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Amritananda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Jai Prakash Prabhu.
Yeah. Regarding the number of breathing that the people do, so everybody get the same amount of number of breathing, or different people has a different?
You get a specified quota, Prabhu, and
based
then
on?
how that based on a karma. So
Okay.
there are certain life forms which, of course, when we talk about lifespan, we talk in number of years. So like a tree, like these redwood forest sequoia trees, they are there for thousands of years. So Their scale is different. But then what also a Shastra says is that, 100 years as in time span, and the breathing that I get will be based on my karma. So we see some people die in childbirth. Someone will die in childbirth. Someone is dying maybe a few days after birth. Some people live to 100 and even across 100 in Japan, that oldest village or whatever. Some of us may pass away in 40s or 30s. So this breathing is based on whatever is the karma, based on whatever is the form that we get. But Brahma also lives for 100 years. But Brahma's 100 years is like, some trillion something of human lifespan. Time is, again, one way we can understand is relative. That good? Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, Hari Bol Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Dandvat, all Krishna Prabhupada. Yes,
All
Mother
Krishna
Janki.
Prabhupada. Prabhuji, could you please go to the next slide?
This one?
Yes, Prabhu, this one. Here, the conclusion that we derived was of conquering death was in thoughts, words, and deeds. So, I'm trying to understand that is this only driven by one's own thoughts, words, and deeds, and we don't have to relate all of this to the situations happening around us, and it is an individual process, correct?
Yes, this is an individual process because your thoughts are very personal to you. And usually the advice is when something happens, we react. To give you an example, is someone abuses me. I will either have a physical reaction to it, or if I don't physically react, maybe it is that authority, like a boss or something. He shouts at me in front of everybody. I may not physically react over there, but internally, I have reacted to that stimuli that has come in. So what they say is, don't react, act. So whatever happens to us, instead of reacting, we are like impulsive. It's like a reflex action, whatever happens, and we react to that. Acting will require you to take a step back, analyze that situation, and then choose the appropriate response. So in this condition, what we're doing is Krishna consciousness is that we are framing our consciousness, we are reforming our consciousness, we are training our consciousness, stuff that we are aware of through practices, through knowledge. When we have the knowledge, when we are doing this Bhagavad Gita class, Bhagavatam class, we read, we ask questions, we talk, we associate with Vaishnavas in the Sangha. What all this is doing is, what knowledge does is, knowledge is training the mind. Because when there is a intellectual appreciation, we say, makes sense. And then from there, but it's not enough, the knowledge. So we engage in all these activities. And all these, whatever activities that we're doing. And literally, Mataji, literally, anything and everything that we do can be an act of devotional service. Literally. A very simple act of us sitting on the sofa, on a chair. A pure consciousness state is someone who's always thinking of Krishna. He could probably think of the Gaura Arti. Kiba Boshi Yache Gaura Sundar, Ratna Simha Sane. So I'm sitting and I say that, I can think of Gaura Sundar sitting on his Ratna Simhasane. Mother Gail, the act of brushing, she says, All of us brush our teeth. Mother Gail says that when I'm brushing my teeth, I say that I'm cleaning my mouth because I'm going to be chanting the holy name. So I need a clean place. Not that it's necessary you clean your mouth. There is no conditions and restriction. So when our thinking, knowledge is what is reforming our thinking. And then the practices that we do, the physical activities also that we are doing. We are dancing in kirtan, we are singing, we are cooking, whatever physical activities we are doing. Whatever the body does, the mind follows, and vice versa. So yes, it is a personal thing. And Krishna consciousness is to make our consciousness more and more closer towards Krishna.
Prabhuji, how can we overcome thoughts that have like affected your thoughts, or maybe we get the knowledge, but then the thoughts that we carry or the baggage that we have, and how do we overcome those? Because when you are in solace, or things that bother you that come to the surface, because other things can keep you engaged devotionally or work wise, or anything that you have to do just to go along with your everyday routine. But how do we overcome the baggage of those experiences that have not been pleasant, or thoughts that have been still remaining and they constantly remind you of some episodes?
Yeah. The one thing to know, Mataji, is Prabhupada gave the example. You know, there is a ceiling fan. It's running full speed. Then when you switch it off, it won't immediately shut off. It will keep going, and then slowly, 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 slowly. And after a while, it will go off. What has happened in this case is you switched off the power. So what we're doing when we do with Krishna consciousness, when we take up to Krishna consciousness, it is switching off the fan. That power which has I, me, myself, we are trying to remove that out. Now, because of our habits, because of our conditioning, these things will keep coming up. They will surface. Or you take the example of a pond. If it is a shallow pond and there's mud at the bottom of the pond, and you throw water, a stone in it, you know, you'll see all the mud rising up. But if it's a deep pond, you throw mud, you throw a big rock also, no mud will rise up because it has just sunk to the bottom. So for us, when we are doing this, there will be these thoughts which come up. There will be, I had asked her something very similar question to my Guru Maharaj. I said that when I'm doing japa, or, you know, when I'm taking darshan of the deities and all nonsensical thoughts come in my mind. And I think I'm doing an aparadh. So should I continue doing it? What should I do? It doesn't seem right that there's something so pure, and with all my impurities, I'm coming over here. What to do? He says, continue what you're doing. This is our condition. It is our nature. Continue what you're doing. Just depend on Krishna. Just pray to Krishna. You know, how could I be serving you more? How could I be doing this? So when all these thoughts come in our mind, you know, pray to your Ishtadev. It could be Bal Gopal, Gauranga, Mahaprabhu, whatever, whoever. That please help me on this. Don't beat yourself up with guilt. That's what Guru Maharaj said.
Thank you, Prabhu. Something to retrospect. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank
Mataji.
you. Hari Bol. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you. Thank you so
Jai
much.
Prabhupada.
Already 8:30. So let's also go through the Damodarashtagam. Let's sing together. That's because of Karthik, that every day we do. So let me share the screen. Let's see. Yeah. You all able to see it?
Yeah, Prabhu.
Okay.
Yes, we see.
So who is going to sing the Damodarashtagam? Anybody?
I'll sing, Prabhu.
Please go ahead. So the way we sing, we will we sing the first verse, and then we go and read the translation. Then the next one, and then we'll read the translation like that. Yeah, please go ahead.
Shri Damodarashtakam ki jai. Namamishwaram Satchitananda Rupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam
Namami Shishwaram Sachidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Brajamanam
Yashodabhyaloka Ladavamanam Paramrishtamathyanta Todrutya Gopya
Yashodabhiyolukhaladavamanam Paramrishtramatyanda Todrutya Gopya. Please
The
read the
Supreme
translation.
Controller, who possessed an eternal form of blissful knowledge, whose glistering earrings swing to and fro, who manifested himself in Gokula, who stolen the butter that the gopis kept hanging from the rafter of their storeroom, and who then quickly jumped up and run in a retreat in fear of Mother Yashoda, but was ultimately caught. To that Supreme Lord Siddhamodar, I offer my humble obeisances.
So I'll only continue singing, or some other
Yeah,
Prabhu
no.
Mataji?
You will
okay.
continue. Yeah.
Okay. Rudantam muhurnetra yugmam rijantam karam bhoja yugmena satanka netram
Rutandam muhurnetram yugmam vijandam Karambojayugmena sadanganetram
Muhushwashakam patri rekhakakanta Sita graivam damoda ram bhakti pattam
Muhushwasakam bakririkanga kanda Vidagrivam damodharam bhaktibhadram.
Upon seeing his mother's whipping stick, he cried and rubbed his eyes again and again with his two lotus hands. His eyes were fearful and his breathing quick. And as Mother Yashoda bound his belly with ropes, he shivered in fright and his pearl necklace shook. To this Supreme Lord Sri Damodar, I offer my humble obeisances.
Iti triksvalila kunde Swagosham nimanjantam akyapayantam
Iti triksulilabhir anandakunde Sughosham nimajjandam akhyavayandam.
Adiyeshitaneshu bhaktarjitatvam Punha premathastam shattavriti vande
Tadiyeshidasneshu bhaktirjidatvam Punah prematastam sadha vritti vande. Please read the translation.
Those super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna's babyhood drowned the inhabitants of Gokul in pools of ecstasy. To the devotees who are attracted only to his majestic aspect of the Narayan in Vaikuntha, the Lord herein reveals, I am conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion to the Supreme Lord Damodara. My obeisances hundreds and hundreds of times.
Param deva moksham na moksha vedem va na chanyam vrineham va krishadapiha
Varam deva moksham na moksham vadim va chanyam hridekam varisarapiha.
Idam teva puranatha gopala balam sada me manasa virashtam kemanye.
Idam deva purnada gopala balam sada me manasya virasham kimanye.
O Lord, although you are able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My only prayers is that your childhood pastimes may constantly appears in my mind. O Lord, I do not even want to know your features of Paramatma. I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may ever be enacted in my heart.
Idam te mukhambojam atyantanilem kritam kuntala sekta raptashakopyam.
Idam te mukhambojam atyandanile Vratam kundalai snigdha rasya gopya.
Muhushumbitam bimba raptadharam me manasya virashtam malam lakshalabhai.
Muhuchumbidam bimbarakadharam me manasya virashram alam lakshalabhe. O Lord, the cheeks of your blackish lotus face, which is encircled by locks of curling hair, have become reddened like bimba fruits due to Mother Yashoda's kisses. What more I can describe than this? Millions of opulences are no use to me, but may this vision constantly remain in my mind.
Namo Deva Damoda Ananta Vishnu Prasiddha Prabhu Tukha Chalabhimagnam.
Damodarananda Vishnu Prasida Dukha Shalabhimagnam.
Kripa Drishti Vrishtyati Tinam Batanu Grihane Shamamagna Edi Akshitrisha.
Kripādrishti vrishhyādi dinam vadāno grihādhisha māmajñam edakshidrishya.
O unlimited Vishnu, O Master, O Lord, be pleased upon me. I am drowning in an ocean of sorrow and am almost like a dead man. Please shower the rain of mercy on me, uplift me, and protect me with your nectarian vision.
Uveratmaja Partha Murtaiva Yatva Tvaya Muchita Bhakti Bhajakrita Cha.
Kuveratmajau baddha murtaiva yadva tvaya mojidau bhakti vajau kridau cha.
Atha prema bhaktim sukham me prayacha namokshe graho mesti tamudareha.
Tada prema bhaktam sukhame prayacha mokshe bhumishti damodareha. Let's go and read.
O Lord Damodar, in your form as a baby, Mother Yashoda bound you to a grinding stone with a rope for tying cows. You then freed the sons of Kuvera, Manigriva, and Nalakuvara, who were cursed to stand as trees, and you gave them the chance to become your devotees. Please bless me in this same way. I have no desire for liberation into your effulgence.
Namaste Studamne Suradipti Damne Tvadiyodarayata Vishwasya Damne.
Namaste
Namaste
Sudhamne
Sudhamne
Suradipidamne
Suradipidhamne
Tadiyodharayada
Tadiyodharayada
Vishwasya Dhamne.
Vishwasyadhamne.
Namo Radhikaya Tvadiyai Priyaye Namo Nantalilaya Devaya Tapyam.
Namo
Namo
Radhikaya
Radhikaya
Todiya Priyaye
Priyaye
Namo
Namo
Nandalilaya Devaya Tubhyam. Please, those who are
O
not,
Lord,
yeah, please read.
O Lord, the entire universe was created by Lord Brahma, who was born from your abdomen, which was bound with a rope by Mother Yashoda. To this rope I offer my humble obeisances. I offer my obeisances to your most beloved Srimati Radharani and to your unlimited pastime. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Yada Damodar ji ki,
Jai.
Yada Shyama Sundar ji ki jai,
Jai.
Radha Kund ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, dear devotees. It was wonderful that every day we have Damodar Ashtakam. Please join throughout this Kartik. And thank you, Amritananda Prabhuji, for a wonderful class, wonderful discussion. So
Thank
let's
you, my
conclude
friend.
today's class. So let's pay our obeisance to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vancha
Vancha
kalpatarubhasya
kalpatarubhesya
kripa sindhubhe
patapabhyo
evacha
patitanam
patidanam
pavanebhyo
pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Vaishnavrinda ki
Vaishnavrinda ki
Jai.
jai.
Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai.
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 Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
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 Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Gaura Premanande Hari.
Hari Hari Bol. Hari
Haribo.
Bol.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Thank
Amrita.
you.
you.
Thank you,
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Haribo.
Hare
Hare
everybody.
Krishna.
Krishna.
Wonderful
Hare
discussion.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Joining you
Krishna.
all soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Sineshwar.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Hari Bol.